Think we are live. Let's see if this is coming through loud and clear. Okay, I think it is. Just going to do a little check here now, an audio check, video check. Make sure this is coming through on my end and your end. So if you can hear me, if you can see me, if this is coming through loud and clear, please let me know in the video chat below. If you can hear me, see me, with no audio echo. All right, so who we got? We've got Jesse's joining us, Frederick's joining us, Kane, Pacer, Connor, Jesse, Alvin, Ultimate Andy, Jeffrey, 80s baby, 90s kid, cool. How's it going? Jeffrey says he can hear me. For those of you tuned in live right now, if you can hear me, if you can see me, if this is actually coming through, please let me know, because I am experimenting with a new streaming setup. This is actually the first time that I've used this particular setup for a live video chat. I did test it earlier today, and we did have some technical issues with the audio that we worked out. But if you can hear me and see me and it's coming through loud and clear, please let me know in the video chat. Good, excellent. It's coming through loud and clear, loud and clear. Great. All right, I'm just going to shut my door and we'll get ready and started. Awesome. Well, welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Friday, August the 16th. And the way these video chats work is I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour, and we're basically going to have a discussion and answer any questions that you may have when it comes to building muscle, losing fat, getting back in shape, any challenges that you're dealing with regards to your workouts, your nutrition program. Feel free to post those questions in our video chat, and I'll do the best that I can. I'll do the best that I can to answer those questions during our video chat today. So it's good. Okay, coming through. Excellent. Now, if you are brand new to this video chat, this is the first time you've ever tuned into a live chat, let me know by putting in the letter N. Type a letter N into the chat. I'd like to know if you're new. And if you're a regular, you tune into these chats all the time, because I do see a lot of familiar names there. Please type in the letter R if you are a regular to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat. Some people are saying it's coming through a bit blurry. That will depend on the internet connection and the stream. So it's saying that the internet connection may be a little bit slow. So that may be the reason why it's coming through a bit blurry. I do apologize if that is the case. But hopefully you can hear me. The main thing is if you can hear me. I mean, there's not a lot of action to watch, other than my talking head. But the main thing is if we can talk and communicate and get those questions answered and basically help set you up on the right track now. All right, so let's just get going with the show here. The show must go on. All right, coming through. Good. Hopefully the connection will pick up. The way this system is, if the connection is a little bit slow, it will embed or stream the video at a slower rate, and it may come in at a lower resolution. If our internet connection picks up, it should come through a bit smoother. For some reason, my internet connection today has been a little bit sketchy. Even though I'm connected to a hardwire internet, it still has been sketchy for some reason today. All right, so let's just jump right into it now. Okay, so let's see. Good stuff. Okay, and just double checking here. We got a lot of people joining us here, a lot of regulars, some new people tuning in. Awesome. Well, again, if you're brand new, I want to welcome you to the video chat. Always nice to have new people tuning in. All right, so let us just jump in. Now, first off, with regards to my own training and nutrition and all that, over the past 30 days, you notice if you've been following along, I've been posting my 30-day shred. So I did a fat loss challenge where I wanted to lose 30 pounds sorry, 30 pounds. 10 pounds in 30 days. That would be cool. That would take much longer than I wanted to lose 10 pounds in 30 days. And I've been documenting that. And it's been a productive challenge, but I did not hit my goal. I didn't hit the goal of 10 pounds in 30 days, but I did hit it overall. It took me longer than 30 days to reach my goal, and I'm going to put together a new video update where I'm going to explain the process in more detail in an upcoming YouTube video, going into more detail about it. But overall, I'm still very happy with how things went. And I'm actually glad that I didn't hit my goal, because it's a great opportunity to share my experience and to share a valuable lesson that even when you set yourself a goal, like in my case, 10 pounds in 30 days, I ended up losing 9 pounds and change, right? I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head. I'll have to go over my records there. But I just missed the goal by a pound. Now, some people would look at that as a negative. You'd say, okay, I set out to lose 10 pounds in 30 days. I didn't achieve it. And they'd say, oh, I failed. Technically, that's true. But look, I still lost 9 pounds in 30 days, made some great progress, got leaner than I have in years, literally. So I'm still quite pleased with it. And ultimately, I did hit the goal over a 40-day time frame. So I did get down to losing 10 pounds in 40 days. So it's all good. I mean, when you set a goal for yourself, it's just kind of like something to shoot for. If it takes you longer to reach that goal, who cares? You still made progress. And that's what I want to really emphasize. And again, I'm going to go into more detail about that when I do my full video review of my progress and some of the strategies that I used along the way to help optimize my fat loss over the past month and a bit. But this is something that you're going to find with yourself. When you set a goal, be that building muscle, losing fat, increasing your strength, or whatever it is that you're training for, there's going to be some ups and downs. And even if you don't hit your ultimate goal, it doesn't really matter. As long as you keep moving forward and you don't quit, you can still make progress. So consistency is the most important thing. Consistency trumps intensity every time. So again, you can look forward to that video. I'm going to put that one together now. I've already shot the footage and stuff like that, but I'll be uploading it now over the course of the weekend. So let's jump into the question and the video chat there. Let's see. We have Jesse is joining us. He says he's currently at work. I hope you don't get in trouble. Hope your boss is cool with this, or at least you don't get caught, one or the other. We have Frederick's joining us. He says, what did you do for your back in your early days in the early days of your bodybuilding career? That's what it was. Must have been a typo there. What did I do for my back? The main exercises that I did for my back, one was I was a big fan of doing a lot of lat pull downs. Back in my early days, when I really got serious about bodybuilding, my father bought us a home gym machine. It was a universal machine, a York 2001. Now, those of you who've been around for a while probably remember this. It was a very popular exercise machine back in the day, and York must have sold thousands of those. And I had one. That was my first piece of equipment. So we had a York 2001 home gym machine, a universal machine, which had a bench press, a lat pull down, low pulley cable, leg extension, leg curl. We also bought a pec deck attachment to go with it, and I had a barbell and dumbbell set, and we had we did a homemade squat rack. That was my original thing, and then we expanded on that. My father's a handyman, and he actually ended up welding some home gym equipment. So we made us power rack, made a row machine, a calf raise machine, a whole bunch of stuff. And I actually have a video online where I share that original home gym. But in my early days, I took advantage of that. And one of the exercises I really did for my back was lat pull downs, barbell and dumbbell rows. After I got a bit more comfortable, I started moving into deadlifts. But I didn't start with deadlifts. Deadlifts was a more advanced exercise for me. So that wasn't part of my initial, even in my first year of training, I didn't do any squats or deadlifts. I just focused on the machine exercises along with some simple free weight moves. And then as I got more advanced, I started adding in squats and deadlifts and barbell bench presses to my routine. So that's something that I would recommend for a lot of beginners when you're just starting out, is to focus on the machines, because machines are easy to use, they're easy to learn, and there's very little risk of injury because you're lifting along a fixed path. So when you're doing a machine exercise, you don't have to worry about balancing and stabilizing the weights. You just have to focus on actually doing the exercise, contracting the muscle, and kind of like going through the motions. And that's the most important thing. Like, I wouldn't take someone who's never lifted a weight before and like put them in a squat rack, or say, hey, let's go do deadlifts and all this kind of stuff, because it's probably too much too soon. Let's just focus on the basics. And then as you get comfortable with the basics, we can add in more advanced exercises later on. And, you know, it's always easy to start off simple and progress versus starting off too complex and risk, you know, getting hurt and injured in the process, which will only set you back further and frustrate you and not give you that positive momentum that you need to move forward. So keep it simple at the start. Don't overwhelm yourself with too much too soon. So what else? Frederick, what would you recommend for the lower trap area? In fact, when you're doing a lot of the rowing exercises, you are going to hit your back, your traps, all those muscle groups are going to come into play. But great ones is anytime you do rowing exercises where you're rowing higher to your torso, you're going to work more of the upper back. Anytime you do rowing exercises where you pull the barbell to your stomach, midsection area, you're going to work more of the lower back. And plus you can also alternate your grips. So for example, if you use an overhand grip, tends to target more of that upper middle back area. An underhand grip tends to target more of the lower lat area. So you can really isolate where you want to focus on your back depending on the grip that you use. All right, let's see what else we've got. Kane is joining us. He says, Lee, what's the best variation of the squat to avoid knee pain? That's an interesting one because it really depends on what your individual mobility is, your comfort level, and all that. But I would start literally with like a bodyweight squat, maybe a goblet squat, something of that nature, to just see if you can actually do a squat without causing pain. Again, don't try and get too fancy and doing barbell squats if that's not a comfortable exercise. Or if you are going to do it, start off really light, even the empty barbell, and just get used to going through the motions and do so comfortably, right? Learning the proper technique and setting that foundation is the most important thing. And of course, then as you get more comfortable, you can always add more weight to it. But if you're training like in a commercial gym and you have access to all kinds of different machines, if the squat doesn't feel right, you don't have to squat. You know, you can do leg presses, you can do leg extensions, you can do leg curls, you can use the inner and outer thigh machine. I mean, you can still hit all the major muscle groups without doing the squat. Now, other variations that you can use if you are more advanced, you can experiment with a box squat. Box squats tend to place more of the emphasis on the hips and the hamstrings and a little bit less strain on the knee joint. So that's a variation that you can experiment with if you do find that the regular squat is hard on the knees. Another one that helps is to do a wider stance. When you're wider with your stance, it very often takes some of the strain off the knees and places more of the emphasis on the hamstrings and the glutes. So that's another variation that you can experiment with as well. All right, we have Pacers Connor. It says, Lee, why do I always get lightheaded and dizzy during my workouts? That's common for a lot of beginners, and I think it's something that you need to build up your work capacity and build up your endurance so that you can handle the volume of training you're doing. I found in my early days of lifting, I would sometimes get exertion headaches, and I would get that lightheaded, dizzy feeling. So a few things that you can do: make sure you stay hydrated. Drinking water throughout your workouts is a huge plus. And don't drink a lot at once. Just like have a little sip of water in between sets. So a little bit of water frequently throughout the workouts will help you stay hydrated. Also focus on your electrolytes. And what I mean by this, primarily sodium. A lot of times people think that salt is bad, and they actually avoid consuming sodium. You know, the old school mentality thinking that too much salt is going to raise your blood pressure and, you know, cause all kinds of problems. And the truth of the matter is, if you're active, you're sweating, you're exerting yourself with a lot of physical activity, be that workout, sports, physical labor, whatever it is you're doing, if you're sweating and losing those electrolytes, you need to replenish them. And sodium's the big one. So I purposely add salt to my food, just, you know, salt to taste, and I find that usually is enough. But sometimes if I'm sweating extra, especially in the summertime if it's warm, I will actually consume extra salt. And one of my strategies is I'll actually take salt packets to the gym. Those little salt packets that you'll get like in restaurants or fast food joints. I'll go in and just grab a handful of those, and I'll put them in like a little Ziploc bag and keep them in my gym bag. So if I feel that I am starting to cramp up, or I feel a bit dizzy or anything like that, then that's usually a sign that I'm probably lacking sodium and electrolytes. So I'll rip open a packet of salt, chase it down with a mouthful of water, and that usually helps. It does help to give you that the sodium that you need. And very often what you'll find is when you consume adequate sodium, you'll get better pumps, you'll have more energy, and you'll just feel stronger during your workouts. It's one of the best workout energy boosters, and again, it's totally natural and virtually free. I mean, you can get salt from a restaurant or a fast food joint for free. And even if you go to the store and buy it, it's very, very cheap, right? So it's something that's awesome. I mean, I use it regularly, and if you've been making that mistake of avoiding sodium, simply putting adequate sodium back in your diet will make a huge difference. Another one that sometimes causes you to feel a bit dizzy as well is if you have like low blood sugar. So you might want to try having a meal about a couple hours before you work out, and that will allow the food time to digest, get absorbed into your system, and give you adequate blood sugar, because low blood sugar can make you feel that lightheaded and dizzy feeling as well. So especially for guys who are on a cutting diet, trying to cut back on their carbohydrates and in a low calorie phase, they very often do feel lightheaded and dizzy during their training. So adequate carbohydrates can help. Another one that you can do as well is simply take more time between sets. So if you're rushing through your workouts, trying to keep that rest period really short, try taking an extra 30 seconds or even an extra 60 seconds between sets as rest, and that can sometimes help as well. You need to think of it like weight training. The main emphasis is to stimulate muscle growth. It's not a race. You're not trying to just rush through your workout as fast as you can, because if you do that, you end up getting cardiovascular exhaustion versus muscular exhaustion. So save the cardio for when you're actually doing cardio. But when you're weight training, focus on stimulating the muscle and taking adequate time between sets so that you can give it 100% when you do your sets, and that usually helps as well. Now, I know there's a time and a place for having short rest periods depending on what it is you're training for, but generally I recommend resting 1 to 2 minutes between sets for most exercises, and for your big heavy lifts, your squats, your deadlifts, your bench presses, overhead presses, the rows, leg press, all these big compound lifts, I'll sometimes rest 3 minutes between sets, and that extra rest time makes a huge difference. You'll feel stronger, you'll be able to lift better, and very often you'll avoid that lightheaded, dizzy feeling you get during your workouts. So give those tips a try and let me know how they work for you. We have Jesse joining us. Says, hope all is well. And he's got a question there saying, the Zercher Squat, does it work the same as the front squat? Very similar. It's a very similar exercise because the weight is in the front of your body. Now, if you're not familiar with what a Zercher Squat is, it's a powerlifting exercise, or at least that's where I found out about it. I remember learning about this when I was watching the old West Side Barbell VHS tapes that Louis Simmons put out back in the 90s. And the way the Zercher squat works is, instead of having this like a front squat where you have it across the front of your shoulders, or of course the back squat where you have it across your upper back, the Zercher squat, you literally curl your arms like you would with a bicep curl, and you hold the barbell in the crooks of your arms, and you do it that way. So it can be a bit of an awkward exercise to do, but what I found made it a lot more comfortable is if you wrap a towel around the barbell, or if you have one of those squat pads that you very often see, like the foam pad, you use that, and you can literally curl and hold the barbell in the crooks of your arms and do your squats that way. So it places the weight in the front of your body, and by doing so, it changes the mechanics of the exercise. So it tends to work more of the quadriceps, and it's just a different squat variation. Like I say, you'll have to really try it to see it, but it's somewhat similar to a front squat because of the way that the weight is in the front versus in the back. Okay, let's see. Again, I'm just going to try and go through these fairly quickly, just get as many of these questions through as I can. Alvaro is joining us. He says, good evening from Stockholm. He says, I'm good, and that you're hope you're doing good and that your diet's going well. I had my first training day after 1.5 weeks off during my vacation and felt super strong. Cool. Yeah. I mean, very often when you take a little break, that sometimes is enough to give your body that recovery time that it needs, so that you can actually feel rested and recovered and come back to the gym feeling strong. So good. I'm glad that you're feeling strong. I mean, I sometimes do that myself. Like I will give myself a little bit of extra rest time if I feel I need it, or even do what's known as a deload phase, where you purposely back off the training volume, back off the intensity to allow your body to recover, especially if you've been pushing it really hard and really consistent in the gym. You know, you can only push yourself so hard before you need to back off and give yourself a bit of a break. Okay, what else we got? Ultimate Andy joining us. He says, Lee, hope all is well with you and the family. And they are doing well. We actually, before this video chat, we picked Harvey up from daycare, and it's a nice day out there, so instead of driving up to the daycare, we walked up and got him in the stroller. It's only about 10-minute walk up the road to the daycare that he goes to, so he likes that when we can get him out for a walk in the stroller. And of course, there's a little bit of fresh air and a little bit of exercise for us as well. Anyway, Andy's question is, he says he gets shoulder pain when he's doing the incline bench press. Is the kneeling landmine press with a barbell a good alternative? It's you can certainly try it, but I mean, it's a totally different exercise. What I'd probably recommend, if the incline barbell bench doesn't feel good, you can experiment with, first off, the angle of the bench. Sometimes a steeper angle places less strain on the shoulders, or a lower angle. You can play around with that if you have an adjustable bench, that is. Another one is dumbbells. Very often dumbbells are easier on the shoulders because you're not fixed in that rigid plane of motion like you are with a barbell. So when you're using a barbell, you have to keep your hands in that set plane of motion with the barbell. But with dumbbells, you can hold them on a slight angle. And by doing that and having your elbows tucked in a bit more, it takes some of the rotation out of the shoulder joint. So very often that's what I will do myself. And if you watch any of my videos where I'm doing a dumbbell press, that could be an incline press, flat press, whatever, I will very often hold the dumbbells at a slight angle. So they're probably like at 45-degree angles. And I find that position takes the rotation out of the shoulder, allows me to really target the chest and the triceps well without the shoulder pain. So that's something that you might want to experiment with. And another thing that I would recommend too is make sure that you do a good shoulder mobility warm-up before you get into any pressing exercises. So work for the rotator cuff, some arm circles. Also do some work for the rear delts and upper back, and just really make sure that you get a good pump going throughout the entire upper back shoulder complex, because that will usually help to alleviate any of the pain that you feel in your shoulders. So you can definitely try with that. And if that doesn't work, then you don't have to do an incline press. I mean, you can stick with a flat bench press if that feels more comfortable. I mean, bottom line, you have to really customize your workouts based around your own, your own body type, your own mobility, and find what works the best for you. Don't get hung up on the exercise. Focus on working the muscle, right? That's the most important thing, right? I mean, not every exercise works well for everybody. So if the incline press just doesn't feel right for whatever reason, then there's no obligation. You don't have to do it. You can do another variation instead. You could also experiment with the chest press machines. Like if you have access to like a hammer strength machine or some sort of plate loaded chest press machine, you can do that as well. Those, again, still going to work the chest muscles. You're still going to be able to stimulate growth without doing the barbell incline press. Okay, we have Jeffrey's joining us. Jeffrey's a longtime coaching student of mine, a member of the Inner Circle. Glad to have you joining us. 80s baby, 90s kids joining us, saying, I know you don't like one size fits all questions, but what exercise would you suggest for everyone to do no matter what their fitness goals are? It's probably not going to be the answer you're looking for, but walking. Just walking and general cardiovascular fitness. This is something that a lot of people neglect. That's one thing I would recommend everybody do. Another one, it's kind of a broad category, but stretching, especially for guys. So many guys neglect stretching, but it's one of those things that can make a huge difference when you do it on a regular basis. And what I very often recommend is, this is how I personally like to structure a workout. I'll always start off with some sort of cardiovascular exercise to warm up at the beginning, just to get the blood flow and the circulation going throughout the entire body. So that could be like the rowing machine, it could be treadmill, elliptical, whatever you have available. It could even be going for an easy jog around the block. If you're training at home or something like that, you could even just do that. It could be jumping jacks, jumping rope, anything. But just get your core temperature elevated with some cardio for a few minutes, and then do some mobility work for the muscle groups that you're going to train. So again, shoulder mobility, hip and knee mobility, whatever it is that you're training, make sure to do some mobility exercises to limber up those body parts. Do your set workout routine for the day, whatever weight training exercises you have, and then afterwards stretch out the muscles that you just trained. That is going to make a huge difference, and that would be a good complete workout, to have that full spectrum, the warm up, the mobility, the muscle stimulating weight training, and then the post workout stretching. So that's one thing that I would definitely recommend for everybody, no matter what their fitness level is. Let's see what else we've got. Okay, we got a bunch of people joining us. Alan's joining us. Bruce joining us. Panic Mike. DJ Danny. Daniel. Who else is joining us? Gotcha, okay. Okay, Donna is joining us, saying, my son has a learning disability and has ADD. Got any easy exercises that I can teach him? Start off with some basic machine exercises. So, I mean, if you are actually taking your son to the gym where you have access to some, a full line of exercise equipment, start off with the machines first. Like I mentioned earlier in the chat, machine exercises are the easiest to master because there's not as much, they're not as technical as barbell lifts or dumbbell lifts, free weights basically, because you don't have to balance and support them. Using machines allow you to train the muscles without as much conscious effort, because the machine will balance and stabilize the weights for you. You just have to push or pull against the resistance. So it's a great way to get started with weight training. And if you'd like some help with this, right on the main Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, there is a total body workout for beginners that's primarily based around machines. And that would be a great place to start for anyone who's new to working out or coming back to the gym after a layoff. And I know a lot of people think, okay, total body workouts like that, that's just for beginners. It's too simple. It's too basic. Even I go back to that workout occasionally. I mean, if I'm coming back to the gym after a layoff, or if I had a few days off, and or sometimes if I'm just feeling a bit, a bit tired, and I don't feel like pushing myself hard with the free weights, I'll go back and do that basic total body machine exercise. I'll do that total body workout, and it's a great one because it still allows you to train the muscles, get a workout, burn calories. I mean, get all the health benefits that we're looking for from a bodybuilding weight training program, but you're not overstressing your body. You're not burning out your central nervous system, and again, the exercises are easy to perform. So, like I say, there's advantages to machine exercises. Like, there's advantages to everything. Obviously, a lot of people go for the free weights because you're stimulating more muscle. It requires more balance and stabilization and more technicality with the lifts. But that's a double-edged sword. I mean, those positives can also be negatives in certain situations, especially when people are just learning to work out and getting started. So keep it simple. That's what I would recommend. Next we have Logical Order joining us. He's asking, will I lose muscle from being in a calorie deficit? Not necessarily. Now, it's possible to lose muscle in a calorie deficit if you're doing it wrong, but just because you're in a calorie deficit doesn't automatically mean you're going to lose muscle tissue. If you're following a proper weight training program, which is going to help stimulate muscle growth, then that's going to counterbalance any potential muscle loss. And of course, if you're eating adequate protein, that's going to provide the raw materials that your body needs to build muscle tissue. And focus on quality nutrition, not just cutting calories, right? There's a big difference. So if you're filling up on nutrient-dense foods, again, protein, vegetables, healthy fat, doing regular weight training, that will allow you to build muscle while burning body fat simultaneously. And that's what you want to focus on. You want to think of build and burn, not just simply losing weight for the sake of losing weight. Right? So it is very possible to build muscle while in a calorie deficit if you do it properly. The only time you're really going to risk losing muscle is when you're at the extreme end, such as like a competitive bodybuilder who's in the final weeks before a competition and they want to go from lean to contest ripped. To make that transition, very often they have to push the limits of calorie restriction. So they'll go on an extreme diet. They'll be doing extra cardio. They're really pushing the limits to try and strip off that last layer of body fat to get down into the single digits and to have that lean, hard look. And sometimes when they push the limit, you may sacrifice some lean muscle in order to get that level of leanness. But for the average person, trying to just go from, say, like fat and out of shape to lean and in shape, you're not going to suffer from that. You can absolutely build muscle and lose fat at the same time. I mean, that's something that I focus on when I'm coaching people personally. When my one-on-one coaching students, we actually design their program in such a way that they are going to be building muscle, gaining strength, while losing fat in the process. All right. And actually, speaking of that, we have Cody joining us, and Cody is one of my coaching students, just recently signed up for a program, and we had a coaching call yesterday, and he's following a fat loss cutting program right now, and he's actually getting stronger at the same time. So, I mean, a lot of people have this misconception that it's either, you have to bulk up and get fat in order to make gains, or if you're in a cutting program, you're going to sacrifice all your muscle. No, it doesn't have to be that, right? You can have that happy medium if you do it properly, where you're actually building muscle and losing fat at the same time. And again, Cody's a prime example of that. So he just wanted to mention there that he had some vitamin. We were talking about vitamins and some of the common vitamins that a lot of people are deficient in, and he said he went and got some B vitamins that I recommended to him. And I'll just throw this out there for those of you watching. If you are looking to kind of meet your vitamin and mineral needs, this is something that a lot of people neglect, right? They think of protein, they think of carbs, they think of fat, they think of calories. A lot of people don't think of the micronutrients, right? They're all too busy. Let's count my macros and track my macros, and if it fits my macros and blah, blah, blah. but they don't think of the micros, the micronutrients, your vitamins and minerals. And this is like next level nutrition, right? It can make or break your program. And some of the common vitamins and minerals that a lot of guys are deficient in, B vitamins is one. Most people are not getting enough B vitamins. Magnesium, zinc, those are two that a lot of people are not getting enough of. Vitamin D, unless you're living somewhere where you're out getting natural sunlight on a regular basis year round, right? Your chances are you're not getting enough vitamin D. So, I mean, those are some critical ones. Omega-3s, very few people are getting enough omega-3s in their diet, especially with today's diet, the way things are, foods are processed and everything else. So those are some of the core vitamin supplements that I take on a regular basis, just to fill in those gaps that you're probably not getting with your natural diet. All right, let's move on. We have another question here. 80s Baby's asking, why does issues men deal with such bodybuilding eating disorder get ignored by the mainstream media? Why do the issues that men deal with when it comes to a bodybuilding eating disorder get ignored by mainstream media? I think there's a few reasons for that. And I'm going to touch on those because this is an important one. A lot of men don't like to talk about their problems. Like if they have a problem, they want to keep it to themselves, kind of like sweep it under the rug, if you will, and pretend it doesn't exist. And that's a mistake, right? That is a big mistake. Like a lot of guys are like lone wolves, right? They want to do it on their own, just try and figure shit out on their own. Whereas women are more social, more open. Like if a woman has a problem, she's probably going to voice it and admit she has a problem more so than men. Now, I'm generalizing. I know there's exceptions to every rule, but some women are very similar to men in that they're going to pretend they don't have problems and push them under the rug. Some men are going to be very open and vocal. But generally speaking, on average, like the 80-20, right? Most guys, if they have a problem or something's not right, they're going to put on a show and pretend everything's okay, even though it's not, right? Underneath, they're suffering, but on the outside, they're going to put on a face and pretend that everything's okay. Whereas women tend to do the opposite, right? If they have an issue, they're usually going to vocalize it more. So I think that's one of the main reasons you're not going to hear so much about eating disorders with men as much as you're going to hear about it with women. But they're very common. And I mean, even in my own personal experience, like I suffered from, I guess, for lack of a better word, it was an eating disorder back when I was competing in bodybuilding. And I'll share it with you right here. The way it worked was when I was getting ready for a competition, I would go on a very strict cutting diet. Very restrictive, low calorie, low carb, just like I'd put my blinders on. I'd have my deadline, like whatever the contest date was, and I would just focus on getting as lean and ripped as possible for that contest. And I would do whatever it took. Crazy strict dieting, taking fat burners and appetite suppressants and everything else that I could to curb my appetite so that I could stick to the diet. Hours of cardio. I would avoid social situations because I didn't want to be tempted and go off my diet. So, I mean, I wouldn't even go out to family dinners or go out to restaurants or anything like that. I was just focusing on the most extreme diet, like chicken and vegetables and oatmeal and egg whites and just a bare bones basic bodybuilding diet. And I would be very strict with that. And it would work in terms of losing body fat, right? I would get leaner. By the time the contest rolled around, I mean, I looked ripped and it showed good in the pictures and the videos. And in my later years, after I've kind of figured my stuff out when it comes to bodybuilding dieting, I actually did reasonably well in some competitions. Back in 2007, I won the light heavyweight and the overall title at provincial championships. I went on to compete at the regional level. And I placed as high as second in the light heavyweight division at the Atlantic Canadian Championships a while back. And, I did really relatively well. Now, I mean, I don't have great bodybuilding genetics. So I mean, I didn't go on to turn pro or anything like that, even though that was, my deep down when I was younger, that was my dream. Like I had this vision back in the day that, I'm going to turn pro and I'm going to become, Mr. Olympia, and I'm going to do it naturally, right? I was that naive at the time that I thought, as long as I work hard and diet hard and blah, 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 I'm going to be able to turn pro and become Mr. Olympian, the best in the world, and I'm going to do it all natural, drug-free. and I was living a pipe dream. I was very naive to the sport of bodybuilding. And then I got around some people who were more experienced who kind of like opened my eyes to say, like, this is what really goes on behind the scenes in the sport of bodybuilding. And then I realized, oh, okay, so you can't become a top-level pro bodybuilder naturally. And you're never going to become Mr. Olympia, the best in the world, naturally. Like, it's, that's a unicorn. It doesn't exist, right? So my dreams for becoming a pro bodybuilder, once I was opened up to the reality, kind of, got pushed to the sidelines, because I realized I'm in this for health and fitness, not just to kill myself for a trophy and a handshake. So my goals kind of changed. But despite that, even when I was competing, I would go through these extreme restrictive cutting diets. And there was no leeway. I was just strict for months on end in order to get in shape. And again, I'd look good in pictures, I'd look good on stage and everything else, and people say, well, you're so lean, blah, blah, blah. But as soon as that contest was over, I would just, I couldn't control myself. I'd just go on the most massive binge. And I would sometimes just not be able to control myself. And I would just binge eat. And like, from months of restriction, there was no limit. I mean, I can remember, like, after a bodybuilding contest, it was insane the amount of food that I'd put away. And it was anything and everything. Like, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and just binge, like, cakes and cookies and chips and cereal. Like cereal and milk. That was one of my weaknesses. Like, I would just, I could eat a whole box of cereal and a whole carton of milk and just, like, and the junk cereals too. I'm talking like, Captain Crunch and Frosted Flakes and whatever sugary crap cereals were out there. I mean, I would just eat that stuff by the box, and I couldn't control myself. So I go from one extreme of borderline, starvation diet to get ripped, to binge eating where I couldn't control myself. So I went through extreme yo-yo dieting throughout the years, and I mean, that's basically an eating disorder. But the thing that kept bringing it back is, okay, the next time I got ready for a competition again, I'd diet down, and I'd buckle on, put on my blinders, get back in shape again. So for years, like literally over a decade, I went through the extremes of yo-yo dieting every single year when I competed in bodybuilding. And this was before the days of YouTube, or back in the early days. So when I was in my fat days, and I'm bulked up and looking like crap, I say bulked up, but it wasn't bulked up. It was just I let myself get fat. But I wouldn't take pictures then. So, like, those of you who've been following me for years, like especially back in the early 2000s and stuff like that, you'd only see the pictures when I was in shape. You wouldn't see the fat out of shape pictures, because I was too embarrassed of those, and I wouldn't show them. But I went through the extremes of yo-yo dieting, ups and downs, and yeah, I mean, it messes with you mentally. It really screws you up. So when I stopped competing in bodybuilding in 2011, I never had that contest to keep my weight in check. So I just gained weight, and I kept gaining weight, and it didn't take long before, I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'm still a bodybuilder, I'm still in shape, blah blah blah. But then I'd start making YouTube videos and stuff, and then I'd have comments come through, and people would say, like, who's this fat F-U-C-K trying to give fitness advice? And at first I kind of like brush it off and say, oh, that's just the haters, right? That's just the haters giving me flack or whatever. But then I get those comments on a regular basis, like, who's this fat slob trying to give fitness advice? And then I'm like, maybe they're right? So I kind of like do a good hard look at myself in the mirror and, do a reevaluation, and I realize, man, I let myself go. I mean, I look like shit. And you can see in my recent transformation pictures where I actually revealed it, because you probably noticed, like, for years I wouldn't do I wouldn't show a shirtless picture because I was too embarrassed of how fat I had let myself go. And so, I mean, I just came to grips with it, and I said, you know what, I got to get this stuff figured out. So over the last few years, I've really fine-tuned a system, a way of eating that allows me to enjoy the way that I'm eating, still be social and go out to family gatherings, eat out in restaurants, and interact as a normal human being without being that guy who's always on a diet. And it's not easy. It's not an easy balance to have that lifestyle approach versus, you know, the extreme diet and then the extreme binging that went on afterwards. So, you know, I mean, I know this is kind of a long-winded answer to your question there, but bodybuilders, a lot of them do suffer from eating disorders, and it kind of goes, you know, unheard or unspoken of because a lot of people just kind of want to push it away and pretend it doesn't exist, but it's a real thing for sure. And you know, I suffered from it myself, and you know, my life would be a living hell going from one extreme to the other. So you really need to, you know, think of the bigger picture. Like, how can you design a program, an eating plan that allows you to reach your goals, still have the eating satisfaction, still be social and enjoy yourself, and move yourself in the right direction toward your goals. And there's a very fine balance, but it can be done with the right approach. And that's what I'm really focusing on now, going into, you know, the next phase of my training, which is looking at a lifestyle approach and not just, you know, getting in shape for a contest or a photo shoot. All right. So with that being said, let's move on to the next question. We have DJ Danny joining us. He says, my question is if you're in the gym to build muscle and many to lose weight, do you really need to cut your calories, or do you only cut your calories if you don't go to the gym? Okay, let me read that again to make sure I clarify. If you're in the gym to build muscle, meaning to lose weight, do you really need to cut your calories, or do you only cut calories if you don't go to the gym? Nutrition applies regardless if you're working out or not. All right, going to the gym or not, if your goal is to lose body fat, you need to focus on your diet. You can't out-train a bad diet. Like, nutrition is there's different percentages. Like, some people say, okay, nutrition is 80% of the progress or whatever. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I really don't know if there's an exact number. But bottom line, you can't out-train a bad diet. Regardless of how hard you work out in the gym, if you're eating the wrong foods or you're eating too much, you're not going to lose body fat. Simple as that. So, working out or not, you need to focus on your nutrition. That's going to determine whether you make the results you want or not. Right? Working out's a great start. And if you just want to focus on one thing, hey, by all means, get started with the workout. Like, lay that habit first. Get that in place. But if you really want to optimize your workout progress, optimize your physique in terms of losing body fat and building muscle, you need to follow that up with proper nutrition. You know, working out alone is not enough. Again, it's a good start, and it's definitely a move in the right direction, but you need both. Actually, you need three things. You need the training, you need the nutrition, and you need that proper lifestyle and mindset to make it work. Right? Without the mindset and the bigger picture of how to make this work and fit in with your routine and to schedule something that actually fits with your lifestyle versus your lifestyle having to fit around your workouts and diet, if you don't have that in place, then whatever progress you make is only going to be temporary. And that's why we see so many people, go on a diet, lose a bunch of weight, and then a few months later they end up binging, backtracking and gaining it all back, right? It's so common because you can't, if it's not sustainable, you're not going to maintain it. Simple as that. If you don't enjoy it, you're not going to maintain it. You have to have a program that you can stick with and that you enjoy and that can be a lifestyle. And that's where it really gets tricky. I mean, I can tell anybody, hey, go on, eat nothing but chicken and broccoli, work out for 2 hours a day, and boom, you'll lose fat, you'll get cut, blah, blah, blah. But Do you want to live on chicken and broccoli and work out 2 hours a day for the rest of your life? Probably not. So it's not sustainable, right? Anything that you do that's not sustainable is only going to be a short-term thing, right? You have to have a system in place that allows you to enjoy it as a lifestyle so you can maintain it. And that's where it gets tricky. Okay, let us move on. Kane is joining us again. Pacer. And we have Lee joining us. Lee Dugan, I believe it is. And he says, great info. I'd say about 20% of the time after I train, I have a cold and flu type of symptoms for a few days. Is this a sign of overtraining? Interesting. 20% of the time you feel like you have a cold or flu symptom for a few days. There's a lot of things that could possibly trigger something that would resemble cold or flu symptoms. I mean, it could be allergies. It may be the start of a cold or flu. I really don't know. I mean, that's interesting. There's a lot of things that could trigger that. So it's possible that there could be something at the gym that you have some sort of allergic reaction to. I don't know. One thing you might want to look into is there's oh man, now that you mention this, there's so many things that this could possibly be. Like, sometimes people are have minor allergic reactions to supplements, like even protein powder, for example. There might be, like, if you're taking like a post-workout shake, maybe the protein powder could be causing a minor allergic reaction that could give you that cold flu-like symptom. If you're taking any different supplements around your workouts, like either pre-workout or post-workout, that might trigger it. It could be some sort of allergies, outside allergies, who knows? Or it could literally be, a cold or flu. I really don't know. One thing that wouldn't hurt is to go to your doctor and request an allergy test just to see if you do have any severe allergies. Like, most people have some minor ones, but they're usually not enough to cause any problems. But you may have some more serious ones, and if you do get the allergy test, it might make you more aware of some things that could possibly trigger this. But I really don't have a specific answer to give you there, but because there's so many potential things that could possibly cause that. But it's interesting you say you notice it after you work out. So, I mean, you have to think, like, what are some things you do different on your workout days that you're not doing on your off days? And try your best to see if you can, narrow it down. And if so, like, maybe try a different protein supplement. Like, if you're normally using, for example, let's just say you're using a whey protein blend or a whey protein concentrate, maybe switch up the brand, or maybe try like an isolate protein, or maybe, a different type. Maybe there's a dairy allergy there and you might want to try another type of protein instead. I mean, it might be worth a shot just to see if it makes a difference. All right, let us move on. We have I might be mispronouncing your name. Adolf? Adolf? A-D-O-L-F-O? I think I pronounced it right. But anyways, question is, what do you think about feeder workouts? And the idea of a feeder workout is basically like a little supplementary workout that you would do in between your main workouts in the gym. So I'll just give you an example. Like, an easy one that you could do is, let's say you want to build a bigger chest, right? A lot of guys do. I can respect that. So you're doing your chest workouts at the gym. So your bench presses, your flies, your pec deck, dips, cable crossovers, whatever it is that you're doing that at the gym. But then maybe, on your off days from the gym, you do some push-ups at home in your spare time as a feeder workout for your chest. It's just a little extra to pump more blood and nutrients into the muscles to help spur on some muscle growth. And I'm a big fan of doing this. I actually do a lot of little mini feeder workouts myself. So, again, push-ups, body weight squats. If you have a set of dumbbells, like, you can do some, bicep curls, tricep extensions, lateral raises. I mean, you can do little feeder workouts in between your main workouts in the gym. And some of the benefits is, one, it increases blood flow and circulation to those muscles. So if you have a stubborn body part that's just lagging behind, the more frequently you can train that body part, the more you're going to help to spur on new growth. Because again, you're just getting more blood, more nutrients in there, more mind-muscle connection, and it just helps to speed up the process. Another time that feeder workouts are good is if you're feeling really sore. So let's just say, for example, you did a hard leg workout and your legs are painfully sore. Well, maybe doing some light leg exercises when you're sore, maybe even body weight squats or even just cardio, like going for a walk or something like that. Just that activity can help to circulate more blood flow, remove the lactic acid buildup, and help to aid with recovery of those muscle groups. So the idea of feeder workouts in between your main workouts is definitely a good one. It's a great way to get more muscle activity without breaking down the muscle tissue. So the idea, I mean, you're not trying to destroy the muscle during a feeder workout. It's just a little extra pump up, to help, again, improve circulation and help speed up some growth and recovery in that area. Cody's asking, do I prefer creatine monohydrate or creatine HCl? I'm a monohydrate fan myself. Virtually not, well, the majority of studies that have ever been done on creatine were done on monohydrate, and how creatine became popular, back in the 90s and early 2000s, when it really kind of took the supplement industry by storm, it was all done with creatine monohydrate. I mean, it works, it's effective, it's very cost efficient, and I mean, it's just a great creatine supplement. That's what I use myself, and I've tried different forms of creatine over the years, and honestly, I haven't found anything that comes close to creatine monohydrate. Now, with that being said, some people may find that creatine monohydrate upsets their stomach, and they might want to try some of these other kinds, but where I find creatine may cause stomach upset is if you do the loading phase, which is overrated in my opinion. I mean, technically it works, right? I mean, it will get the creatine in your system faster if you do a loading phase, but it's not necessary, because even if you just start off at a maintenance phase of about 5 grams of creatine per day, the creatine will build up in your system over time. And that's the way it is with creatine. It's not like something that it's not like a stimulant. It's not like caffeine, for example, where you take it and you feel it immediately. It's something that has to build up in your system, and then once you have your body's natural creatine levels topped up from creatine, then you reap the benefits from it. So obviously the fastest way to top up your body's creatine levels is to load, but if you're doing that, like taking 5 grams of creatine 5 times a day, which is, kind of like overkill, yes, you're jamming the creatine in your system as fast as possible, but it could cause a lot of upset. It could cause diarrhea, bloating, it just makes it uncomfortable. So it's really no need of that. I mean, just taking a maintenance dose as a consistent, long-term thing, you'll reap the results of creatine. And what I do personally is I take 5 grams of creatine per day, just the same as I take my vitamins every day. It's just and I literally take it with my vitamins. It's just that one of those things, and I want to have that consistent supply of creatine on a regular basis so that I can reap the results that creatine has to offer. And I always use the creatine monohydrate. All right, another question here. Do you think Arnold's physique is overrated? Not really. I mean, Arnold's been an inspiration to millions, including myself. I mean, like, when I was younger, one of the biggest eye-openers for me was when I seen Arnold Schwarzenegger for the first time, and that was in the movie Conan the Barbarian. I remember I was only a young kid. Technically, I shouldn't have been watching barbarian movies at that age, but I did, and the reason why I seen it is because it came on television, right? Like, I think the original Conan the Barbarian was released back in '83 or something like that, but I watched it, it was a few years later when it was actually airing on TV. And I seen it, and I actually recorded it on VHS because I was just in awe of Arnold. Because, I mean, he was like the first time I ever seen someone with muscle. And I was just like, holy smokes, man, I want to look like that. I was just mind blown when I seen him. So I recorded the movie Conan the Barbarian, and I watched it over and over again, and that had a big impact on me because it was like the first time I ever seen a bodybuilder, and I didn't even know what a bodybuilder was. I just like, that dude's got muscle, right? You know, and I want to look like that. So I mean, no, I don't think his physique is overrated at all. I mean, it was at the time it was the elite for his era. Now, of course, today there's a lot of guys with physiques of similar caliber, and I mean, if someone had Arnold's physique today, I don't even know if that would even be good enough to turn pro with today's standards, because in fact it wouldn't be good enough to turn pro, because the level of conditioning and muscularity that the current pros have is just off the scale. But it's still an admirable physique. I mean, most people would love to have a physique that, you know, that's not even as good as Arnold's, right? Yeah, but I think it's definitely a you know, he had an awesome physique back in his prime, and it was huge inspiration to me, and I'm still a fan of it, right? I mean, I love it when I see the old pictures of Arnold and the old Pumping Iron. I mean, even now, if I've, you know, watched the old Pumping Iron movie, I mean, that motivates me. I mean, I just love it, right? I know he was cocky and full of himself and everything else, and it's cheesy, but it's just classic, right? I mean, it literally changed the world of fitness as we know it, right? I mean, he's just been an inspiration to millions. So, you know, would he be able to hold his own on a current pro stage? Heck no, right? But that doesn't take away from what he's achieved by any stretch. All right, Jeffrey's got a question. He's saying that he finds doing front squats difficult because it feels very uncomfortable and unsecure than doing back squats. Is there a way to do front squats and feel more secure in doing them? First off, if you don't like front squats, you don't have to do them, right? Don't feel obligated to do an exercise if it doesn't feel right for you. Another variation that you can try, Jeffrey, is the goblet squat. This is a much easier, more natural variation. So you just literally hold a dumbbell like a goblet. So you'd hold the dumbbell end up, cup your hands underneath it, and hold that to your chest like this, and do your squats that way. And it's a more natural position than the front squat. And it'll give you the similar benefits because the weight is in the front of your body, and it's not as awkward on the shoulders or on the wrists, especially if you're using like the Olympic style of grip for the front squat. So don't get too hung up on this front squat if you don't like it. The goblet squat is perfectly fine. You could also try doing your front squats in a Smith machine. That would probably make it easier because, again, the weight is balanced for you. I know some gyms offer a front squat harness, and we actually have one up at Platinum Health and Fitness, which is the gym that I train at up in Conception Bay, South Newfoundland. They have a harness that loops over your shoulders. It's almost like two big J hooks that hook over your shoulders, and it has these pins sticking out of the harness that the barbell literally rests on. So you can basically do front squats without your arms having to hold the barbell because it's resting in this harness. So if you had access to something like that, that would be an alternative that would allow you to do the front squats without that weird, awkward angles with your arms. Because that's the worst part of the front squat. It's just awkward, right? And, you know, I know a lot of people like to cross their arms and they find that, or they do the Olympic style with the barbell in their hands. But again, it is an awkward position. So if you do the goblet squat or the front squat harness, it usually makes the same movement feel much more comfortable and secure. So you might want to give those a shot instead. And if they don't feel right, stick to the back squat, right? You can still get the results you're looking for, right? Focus on working the muscle. Don't get too hung up on the exercise. Okay, another question here. This one's from UFC Boxing Ping Pong. Gotta love the usernames. Anyway, he says, what do you think about 120 burpees? I think that would suck. I'm not a fan of burpees. Never have been. I mean, yes, I've done them, but I mean, I don't like burpees. I don't do them as a regular part of my workout routine. The only time I've ever done burpees is if I was doing some sort of fitness class that required us to do burpees. Like back in the day when I used to do martial arts, you know, sometimes the instructor would have us doing like body weight exercises and taking you through like a circuit, and you know, might have burpees included. But I hated them. I really do. You know, I like to just do, like, I like push-ups. I like doing ab work. You know, if you want to do jump squats, that's fine. But when you combine it all together, I just find it, you're getting a half-ass push-up, you're getting a half-ass jump squat, and I mean, again, I'm not knocking it. If you like burpees, hey, more power to you, right? I'm not trying to say don't do them if you like them, but you ask me what I think about them, I think they suck. All right, we have another user joining us, and I have no idea what your username is because it's written in Chinese or Japanese or some different Asian characters. Forgive my ignorance. I don't know your language, but your question is, if I'm deep into a dieting phase and my body fat is getting really low and my sleep is starting to get affected, if I'm on point with my macros and workouts, will lack of sleep directly stop weight loss? No, it will not directly stop weight loss, but sleep is important. Sleep is huge, and I would try and optimize your sleep the best you can. But I can relate to what you're going through, because I know back when I was competing in bodybuilding and going through those extreme cutting phases that I mentioned, you know, where I was like extreme low calorie, low carb, you know, all that, I found it difficult to sleep. If my belly is grumbling and rumbling, I find it hard to sleep. I actually find that I sleep better when I have food in my stomach, because if my belly's happy, I'm happy, and I can sleep like a baby. So one of my strategies to actually help me get a good night's sleep is I purposely eat before I go to bed. I know that sounds counterintuitive to some, because some people say, oh, aren't you not supposed to eat late at night? But the truth of the matter is, whether you eat late at night, early in the morning, midday, it doesn't matter. It's the average calorie intake for the week is what matters. Not so much when you eat them, right? So it doesn't matter if you're eating, you know, 10 p.m., 10 a.m., 12 noon, or whenever. It's your calories in versus calories out over the course of the long term. And I like to use the week as an average, but ultimately it's the long-term average is what's going to determine whether you're losing fat or not. So you may want to try spacing out your meals in such a way that you have a bigger meal in the evening before you go to bed, and that may help with your sleep. Now, if you find that, you know, you don't want to risk having that food get stored as body fat, one thing that you might want to try doing as well is go for a walk in the evening, right? I find an evening walk very relaxing. I find it like it de-stresses me from the day. So instead of like sitting at home watching TV or scrolling through your phone and your social media and all this electronic device stuff that can stimulate your mind, in the evening, like before you get ready for bed, this is something I do a lot. I'll go outside and I'll just go for a walk. I mean, it could be walk around the block or whatever. It's ideal if you live in a rural area where there's not a lot of stimulation. Like when I go out for an evening walk, it's like totally quiet and peaceful, right? I don't live in a city or anything like that, which makes it nice. I mean, trying to do the same thing somewhere like New York City probably wouldn't be quite as peaceful, but you know, you could probably do it nonetheless. But I like to just get outside and go for a walk, and that's a great way to get some extra fat-burning exercise, and it also helps to just relax my mind and kind of like de-stress from the day. And then I come home, have a nice, satisfying meal, and then go to bed shortly thereafter. And I find that the act of going for the walk just helps to relax me, you know, clear my mind. The food makes my belly happy, which makes me happy, and it just makes me tired. And I find that even the fresh air from going out for a walk in the evening helps to make me tired and sleep better. So that's one of my strategies that I do, and if I find it difficult to sleep, and it works well. But definitely you want to look into some different strategies. Now, I mean, you can look into certain sleep supplements, you know, like melatonin. What's the other one? Like that 5-HTP is another one. L-theanine. You know, certain supplements that can help to relax you. GABA is another one. I mean, there's a bunch of different sleep supplements that may help to, again, relax your mind and relax your body and make it easier to sleep. But getting good sleep is important, because when you get deep sleep, that's when your body's going to release the highest amounts of natural growth hormone. And growth hormone, despite the name, is actually a fat-burning hormone. It actually aids with fat burning and helps to recover, help your body to recover in terms of muscle and repair. So sleep is huge. If you get better quality sleep, you'll actually see better quality fat loss as well. But again, to answer your question, as long as your diet's in check, even if you're getting half-ass sleep, you're still going to lose body fat. I mean, it's a calories in versus calories out equation, but you can get better fat loss if you get better sleep, because it helps to optimize your recovery and your metabolic hormones. But what you're explaining is actually quite common. If you talk to a lot of bodybuilders and people who go on, very restricted diets, a lot of them do suffer. Their sleep suffers when they are following an extreme diet, and a lot of times it's just because it's hard to sleep when you're hungry. Okay, let's keep this going. Samil is joining us. He says, do you think that training calves, standing calf raises, before squatting is a good idea, since I want to prioritize them, and also think that it might help with the squat depth due to the stretching? Personally, I've never done that before, but try it. This is my theory on that. Do some light calf raises for the stretch aspect. If you want to improve your ankle flexibility and mobility for squatting, just do some light calf raises, not training to failure, not really going, too hard, because this is what I sometimes find, and you may relate to this. If you do you do multiple sets of calf raises, repping up to failure, and you really pump up the calves and burn them out, sometimes that may make you a little bit unsteady. And then if you're trying to do heavy squats and your calves are pumped and fatigued, it may actually hinder your squats. It may make you feel a bit unsteady when you're doing it. To kind of correlate it to another exercise, imagine trying to do deadlifts after you just trained your forearms, right? Your forearms are fatigued. You won't be able to grip the weight and feel as solid doing your deadlifts. This is kind of a similar thing with the squats. Now, granted, your feet don't literally grip anything, but they help to balance and stabilize you when you're standing on the floor. So I wouldn't train them to the extreme, to the point that your calves are fatigued, but I see no problem in doing some light calf raises, really focusing on going through the full range of motion just to stretch out your calves, stretch out your ankles, and help with the mobility aspect. And then after you do your squats, or at the end of your workout, you can do some, that's when you train to failure and really, push it with your calf raises. Now, another strategy that you can do to help bring up your calves is those feeder workouts that we mentioned earlier. And calves work great for this, because you can train your calves anywhere, anytime. You can do bodyweight calf raises, and calves respond well to high volume calf raises. So you don't even need any equipment. Just literally stand up and do calf raises. Bang out 100 reps of bodyweight calf raises and you will get a killer pump. You want to make it even more effective? Elevate your heels. So stand on a block or stand on a step or something like that, where you can get that stretch and let your heels sink down and go through full range of motion. That'll make it more effective. If you find that too easy, do one leg calf raises, one leg at a time. That'll make it that much more challenging, because now you're literally doubling the resistance because you're lifting your entire body weight with one leg instead of two. But that will make a huge difference. And back in my early days of training, that's all I did for calf raises, or for calf training. When I was training at home in my home gym, we never had a proper calf raise machine, but I did a lot of bodyweight calf raises. And it certainly, helped spur on growth in my calves. They're definitely one of my strongest body parts. So yeah, high rep calf raises with your body weight, boom, it's awesome. Do that in addition to the heavy calf work at the gym, the standing calf raise, seated calf raise. That will be plenty to help stimulate growth. All right, how are things going here? All right, guys, just want to make sure is just a quick little check-in. Make sure everything is still coming through loud and clear. You can still hear me, see me, and all that. You know, again, this is a new live stream setup that I'm using here, so I just want to make sure that it's still coming through smooth. Any feedback you can give me, whether the the audio is a bit sketchy or the video sketchy, please let me know, and I'll try and optimize it for our next video chat if there is a problem. But just want to see. So I know there's a little delay there from the time that I say something to the time that you actually hear it and can respond via the chat. But again, for those of you who are tuned in live right now, if it's coming through loud and clear, just let me know. So Jay is saying it's all clear. Cool, appreciate that, Jay. Anybody else got feedback? Is it coming through all good from Rusty? Thanks, guys. Awesome. I wasn't sure because, again, I did a test earlier today. I know some of you actually jumped on midday today and helped me fine-tune the audio for this because it was horrendous. For whatever reason, it was getting an echo and then it was replaying it and then it just kept compounding it and compounding it. So the longer I was speaking, it was like it kept doing a replay and a replay and a replay. And eventually, after like a few minutes of me tweaking it, it was like 100 voices playing simultaneously, and it was just total chaos. But I went in and screwed around with the audio settings, and I think I got it figured out, but just want to make sure that it's coming through loud and clear for you. All right, Nath is joining us. Says, Lee, I've been cutting for a while. All of my lifts are the same except the bench, which has dropped significantly. How can I stop it? You're probably not going to stop it. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. It's very normal as you lose body weight for your big lifts, the bench, the squat, the deadlift, to go down. Those lifts really correlate with body weight. Like the easiest way to increase your bench press, gain weight. Like I know like a general rule of thumb that a lot of powerlifters use is for every 5 pounds of body weight they gain, they put 10 pounds on their bench press. Like, even if they're not doing a specialized bench press training program, they're just kind of doing their normal routine. Generally speaking, the bigger you get, the bigger your bench, right? You put 5 pounds of body weight, you'll probably put 10 pounds on your bench as a general rule. Now, vice versa, if you lose weight, chances are you're probably going to lose a bit on your bench. And that's because those exercises, the squat and the bench and the deadlift, they really relate to body weight. You don't have the same mass, you don't have the same tension in your body as you're doing the exercise. So you're probably going to notice some drops, right? That's just inevitable, right? That's just part of it. But with that being said, you'll probably notice some strength gains in other areas, especially with your body weight exercises. Like as you lose body weight, you know, your ability to do push-ups and dips and pull-ups and lunges and all that kind of stuff will probably go way up. Because, I mean, when your body weight's lighter, you're more efficient. You know, there's less weight to lift. You'll be able to bang out more reps. And you may also notice an improvement in your exercises that you do for repetitions. So, like, other moves, maybe like leg extensions or curls or tricep work or whatever. A lot of times when you are lighter, you have better endurance, better work capacity, better cardiovascular conditioning, and sometimes that correlates into being able to do more repetitions and actually be more efficient with your other exercises. But when it comes to the big compound lifts, it's pretty normal for guys to drop, for their lifts to go down. I've experienced myself the same thing, and there's really nothing you can do about it. I mean, obviously you still want to train hard and try to progress with your bench press and that, but don't get upset if your bench goes down a little bit, right? It's just part of the process. Okay, we have Tushar, I think it is, Tushar, says he trains 3 times a week, does a push, leg, and pull split. How many hours should I train for each workout? That really... It really depends on your fitness level, your schedule, your work capacity, what it is you're training for. I mean, there's so many variables. Like I don't like giving cookie cutter answers because, it really depends on the individual. But the general rule of thumb that I give for 80% of the people listening is a workout routine in terms of like the actual weight training portion of the workout. You should be able to get it done within an hour, right? There's really no need to go lifting weights beyond an hour at a time. And I mean, after an hour of weight training, you're just going to be depleted, right? Your energy levels, your glycogen levels, and all that are just going to be drained. So you should be able to get in a full weight training workout within an hour. Now, that doesn't necessarily count the warm-up, any mobility that you're doing at the beginning, and it doesn't count like any stretching or post-workout cardio that you're doing either. So I always like to use that. The weight training takes an hour, but the total workout will probably take about an hour and a half. For me, that's pretty standard for myself. Now, of course, if you're on a tight schedule and you don't have an hour and a half to dedicate to a workout, then you just modify it and compress it accordingly. Like if you got to get a full workout on an hour-long lunch break, then you just modify your workout accordingly so you can get it all done in an hour-long lunch break, right? You can adjust your workouts to your schedule and your lifestyle, but if time is not an issue, right, try to get your weight training done within an hour. That's kind of like my generalized rule of thumb for that. And he's asking another question: how many times should he change his workout? And that's going to depend on your actual progress. Don't just change it for the sake of changing it. Like, if you're going to change it, there should be a reason to change it. Either you're hitting a plateau in certain exercises and they're not working for you, so you want to change them out. Or maybe you're just been doing the same routine for weeks or months on end, and you're like, I'm bored of this, I want to do something different. That's another reason to change it up, because motivation and enthusiasm correlate to gains. Like, if you are excited and enthusiastic about your workouts, you'll tend to make better gains. If you are bored and you actually dread going to the gym, it carries over. I mean, and you'll tend to make worse gains. So if the general rule of thumb I use is, once you hit a plateau, or even worse, you actually start to lose strength, and that sometimes happens. Like, if you're doing the same exercises in the same set and rep pattern and everything else, and maybe this week you just to give you an example, you lift 100 pounds for 10 reps, and then the next week you're struggling to get it for 8 or 9 reps, and then the week after that you're struggling to get it again, and you find that your strength is actually going down. That's usually a sign that, hey, you should probably change this up and try something different. Either change up the exercises, change up the set and rep pattern, change up the exercise order, change up the split. There's a lot of variables that you can change, but change something so that you can help to spur on some new muscle growth and also give yourself some more motivation and enthusiasm to get into the gym as well. A guideline that I like to recommend, stick to a program for a bare minimum of 4 weeks before you change it. And you can probably even stick with it longer than that if you're making progress. But I wouldn't recommend changing it any sooner than 4 weeks, because if you go less than 4 weeks, you didn't give your body enough time to really adapt and grow in response to that program. So you could potentially be shortchanging the gains that you could have made by changing it up too soon. All right, let's move on. We have DJ Danny, we have Kane joining us. Kane just posted something about low iron, but he didn't follow it up with a question, so I don't know if that's a response to me or someone else. 13 dumbbell, I think that's the username. Okay, actually, I think he's replying to somebody else's comment, so I'll just move on. Rusty's joining us. Okay, Rusty's saying, Lee, I love your videos. You're a great inspiration to me. Well, thank you for that. I'm glad you enjoy the videos. He says, I'm trying to build bigger biceps, but I ain't getting the results one would expect. I need a top tip. Not just any tip, but a top tip. All right, Rusty, a top tip. Feeder workouts, like we mentioned. If you have a set of dumbbells or a set of resistance bands at home, you can do supplementary bicep workouts at home in your spare time. This will be a great way to spur on new growth because, again, the more often you can pump up those bis, the more blood flow, the more nutrients you get in there, the more you're going to help to speed up the whole growth process. Another thing, the biceps are a very small muscle group, so they can recover quickly. So the more frequently you train them, the better results you typically get. Another thing that I would recommend, I'm giving you a bunch of top tips here. When you're training your biceps, train them through the full range of motion. I'm a huge fan of positions of flexion, especially when it comes to the biceps. So an example of positions of flexion would mean you do a mid-range exercise, a fully stretched exercise, and a peak contraction exercise. So I'll give you a sample bicep workout that you can try. Barbell curls, standing barbell curls, just a big, basic, compound, meat and potatoes exercise for the biceps. Now, technically it's not a compound exercise because, you're only lifting at the elbow joint, but as far as a bicep move goes, you're going to lift the most weight, and it's going to be the most power exercise for the biceps is just a standing barbell curl. So start with that. That's your mid-range exercise. After that, do some form of a preacher curl. Could be a dumbbell preacher curl, could be a barbell preacher curl, it could be a preacher curl machine, but some form of preacher curl where you're getting the stretch in the bottom position, where you extend your arm all the way out and you really feel that stretch in the bottom. After that, you want to do some form of peak contraction exercise. Could be like a concentration curl, could be a type of cable curl, because sometimes when you're using cables, you get a really good peak contraction at the top. It could even be, if you have certain bicep curl machines at your gym. Like one that we have that I absolutely love, and again, give a shout out to Platinum Health and Fitness up in Conception Bay South. They're awesome. But they've got the old school Nautilus equipment up there. So they got the Nautilus bicep curl. The original one, right? The big, clunky Nautilus machines that have sprockets and chains, not cables and pulleys. I'm talking old school stuff, right? This stuff is old, but is built to last. Like these machines must be 30 years old or older. I have no idea how old they are, but they're old, and they're just as good today as they were back then, right? Because the quality is like, you don't get machines built like they used to. And again, not these little flimsy cables and pulleys. We're talking big metal sprockets and chains, just like you'd get on like a motorcycle. Like a motorcycle sprocket and a motorcycle chain. That's what the weight stack is connected to. So, the thing is like solid. It ain't going to break, right? But anyway, they've got the old school Nautilus bicep curl machine, and they got the old school Nautilus pullover, Nautilus leg extension. They got a whole bunch of Nautilus stuff there, but I love it, right? That stuff is awesome. But the Nautilus bicep curl, really good for a peak contraction exercise for the biceps. But again, whatever equipment you have at your gym, right? Mid-range, so like standing bicep curl, standing barbell curl, fully stretched, some sort of preacher curl where you're really getting that lower end of the range of motion where your arms are fully stretched out and extended, and then a peak contraction where you get it right at the top. That's what you want. And do those 3 movements in that exact order. Mid-range, fully stretched, peak contraction, and I guarantee you're going to get an insane pump in the biceps, and it'll help spur on new growth. And if you would like a full program that has all this outlined for you, check out my website, blastyourbiceps.com. This is a program that I put together several years back, but it is a complete arm specialization training phase. So even though it's called Blast Your Biceps, it's really a full arm specialization training phase because I train biceps and triceps together with that program. So again, if you want a full program, everything outlined for you, blastyourbiceps.com. Okay, I'm actually going to get ready and clue it up. We've been going for, how long has this chat been going on? Holy smokes, guys. It's been going on for 1 hour and 28 minutes. Woo! Damn. I'm full of gab today. Alright. It's just because I'm getting lots of good questions. That's why, right? I'm getting good questions. The live stream is coming through clear. Well, I'm just going. Alright. For the heck of it, I'm going to do one more question, and then we're going to clue it up. Let's see. I'm just going to scroll through and randomly pick one. Let's see what we got here. What's one that I feel like I'm qualified to answer? There's a question there on binge drinking, and I don't feel I'm qualified to answer on that because I really have never suffered from binge drinking. Thanks. What's the best method for a workout after shoulder surgery? I've I've never had a shoulder surgery before, so I'm probably not the best to answer that. Let's see. All right, the last question that just came through, I'm going to answer that one because I can relate to this. Again, not being disrespectful to other people who posted questions, but I just want to finish off on a question that I feel I can really do good justice to. This one is Mr. Retro Angel. It says, I'm the same age as you. So lordy, look who's 40. So should I train every day or should I train one day on and one day off? All right, this is one that I definitely like to answer. You should train every day, but how you train will vary. And I'll give you an example. This is what I do personally, and I find that it works really well. And I like to use what I refer to as my yin and yang training method. I know it sounds a bit exotic and everything else, but it's alternating high intensity weight training one day and low intensity cardio the next. So I work out, or exercise I should say, every single day, but I do so in a complementary way that works with your body's recovery. So for example, when you're doing that high intensity weight training workout, you're breaking down muscle tissue, you're stressing your central nervous system. I mean, you're placing stress on the body and it's breaking it down.
Daddy,
hi, how are you?
Daddy,
You want to what?
Daddy's doing his talk show, he said.
Oh, Daddy's doing his talk show. Yes. Here, we're talking about exercise. Look. Oh, here's Daddy's boy. Look. Look at that. Now look, who's that there? Who's in the video? Who's in the video?
Heavy.
Harvey. And who's with Harvey? Here, can we take the nubby out? There. Who's in the video?
Heavy.
Harvey and... Who's with Harvey? Who's with Harvey? Harvey and...
Heavy and Daddy.
Harvey and Daddy. That's right. Can you flex your muscles?
Girl.
Grrr. Show them most muscular. And show front double bicep. Front double bicep. Okay, and lat spread. There you go. And side chest. Can you do side chest? There you go. Okay, this side. He likes this side. Do side chest. Side chest. Here. Hold your hands. Hold your wrist. You like most muscular, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, do most muscular again. That's front double bicep. Most muscular. There you go. Oh, look at the muscles on you. You're some strong, you are. My goodness gracious me. Anyway, Harvey, we were just answering a question there about... Oh, I think you're tired. You're snuggling in. Oh, don't tap on the chat there. Hang on. What was the question? I'm going to scroll down. The question was... Should you train every day or one day on, one day off? So what Daddy does is he goes to the gym one day and he lifts weights. And then the next day he does some cardio. Which that's front double bicep, yeah.
Daddy lifts big weights.
Daddy lifts big weights, that's right. So,
Daddy lifts big weights.
that's right, Daddy does lift big weights. So one day he lifts the big weights, and then the next day he goes for a walk, or he goes for a bicycle ride, and he gets his cardio. So this way we stay active and exercise every day, but we're doing so in a complementary fashion. So
Look, it's a good touchstone, Daddy.
yeah, we're doing a talk show. Yeah. So when we do the cardio, we allow our body to rest and recover from the weight training. And then when we do the weight training, we're breaking down and stimulating muscle growth. So the complementary mix of cardio one day and weight training the next allows you to burn calories, spike your metabolism, and keep yourself active every day. But you do so and you allow your body to rest, recover, and grow. So that's what we do.
That's what you do, Harvey.
That's what we do, Harvey. That's right. So again, we're going to clue it up. It's supper...
We could kill Harvey.
Yeah. So let's do one more pose. Let's do a... Come on. Front double bicep. You do one. Front double bicep.
Ew.
All right. And most muscular. There we go. All right. You want to get down?
Yeah.
Okay. So, with that being said, with the pose down, myself and Harvey, I think he won hands down, right? He won that pose down. we're going to clue it up. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. I do apologize for not getting everybody's question, but I got most of them. And thanks for the great questions, the support. I'm glad this worked out. I was a bit nervous, you know, because I have a new software set up here for the whole video chat and everything else. So I'm glad that it came through loud and clear on your end. And we will have another live video chat next Friday, same time, same place. So you can tune in then. And in the meantime, have yourself a fantastic weekend and enjoy. So I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Over and out. And we clue it.